You picture the ribbon cutting, balloons over the produce section, a local news crew, your name on the sign. You think about the shelves, rows of perfectly stacked cereal boxes, a deli counter gleaming under the lights, carts rolling out the door full of groceries you sold. You think the money is made right there, at the register, every time that scanner beeps. What nobody told you is that the real story of a supermarket isn't at the register. It's in the walk-in freezer humming 24 hours a day. It's in a spreadsheet tracking bruised bananas. It's in a contract negotiation over which brand of ketchup gets the eye-level shelf. That's where a supermarket actually lives or dies. Here's the number that should stop you cold. To open a single full-size supermarket from the ground up, the building, the refrigeration systems, the shelving, the opening inventory costs somewhere between $4.5 million and $15 million. Call it $9 million as a realistic middle. Not for a chain, not for 10 locations, for one store. That's more than the cost of a private jet, spent before you've sold a single carton of milk. Which brings us to the question at the center of this video. How does a business that moves this much money, a typical supermarket rings up over $700,000 in sales every single week, end up keeping almost none of it? What does it actually take to keep one supermarket alive, and why does an industry this large run on margins this thin? To understand that, you have to understand the world a supermarket operates in. This is not a business built on markup. It's built on volume. A typical store might keep only 1 to 3 cents of every dollar that crosses the counter. Compare that to almost any other retail category, and it looks less like a business plan and more like a magic trick. Enormous revenue, razor-thin profit, and almost zero room for error. The tension baked into this system from day one is simple and brutal. Most of what you're selling is perishable. The clock starts ticking on your inventory the moment the truck backs up to the loading dock. Category 1. The building itself. Before you sell a single item, you're paying for concrete, steel, and, the part nobody thinks about, refrigeration engineering. A modern supermarket isn't a building with some fridges in it. It's essentially a climate control facility with a retail floor built inside it. Specialized refrigeration contractors, backup compressor systems, and code-mandated temperature logging all get priced in before opening day. And the building doesn't stop costing you once it's built. Over a 20-year lifespan, the energy bill to keep that refrigeration running can climb past $10 million, a number that can rival what it cost to construct the store in the first place. You haven't sold a single apple yet, and you're already carrying 2 mortgages, one for the building, one for keeping it cold. Category 2. What's actually on the shelf. Here's the part that surprises most new owners. You don't just buy inventory. In a lot of cases, you get paid to display it. Slotting fees, promotional allowances, co-op advertising money. Brands pay supermarkets for prime shelf real estate, the same way a landlord charges more for a corner storefront. It sounds like free money. It isn't. It's a negotiation where the supermarket holds less power than it looks like, because if you don't take the deal, the brand walks to the store down the street, and you're left with an empty shelf and a customer who came in for a specific product you no longer stock. The common belief that a grocer chooses what to sell is incomplete. In practice, the shelf is a rented stage, and someone else is often paying for the lighting. Category 3. The people who make it run. A single supermarket can employ well over 40 people just to keep the doors open. Cashiers, stockers, butchers, bakers, overnight receiving crews. Labor is one of the largest line items a store carries, and it's also one of the least forgiving. Overstaff, and you've eaten your margin before the month even ends. Understaff, and shelves go unstocked, checkout lines grow, and customers who came in for a 5-minute trip walk out and never come back. There's no slack in this system. Every schedule is a bet. Category 4. The silent killer. Shrinkage. This is the number that keeps supermarket owners up at night. Shrinkage, spoilage, theft, damage, and administrative error combined typically eats 2 to 4% of total revenue. On a store doing $2 million a year, that's $40,000 to $80,000 simply evaporating. Now compare that to the store's entire net profit for the year, which often lands in that exact same range. Read that again. The waste alone can consume the entire profit. More than half of that shrinkage comes from perishable departments: produce, dairy, meat, The bakery, the same categories that make the store feel fresh and appealing to customers. The very thing that draws people in the door is the thing quietly bleeding the business dry. Category 5, the margin trap. Here's the reframe that most people never consider. A supermarket's low margin isn't a flaw in the system, it is the system. Because margins sit so close to zero, one bad quarter, a spike in shrinkage, a supplier price increase you can't fully pass on to customers, a competitor's price war 2 blocks away, doesn't just dent profit. It can erase it entirely. Owners talk about COGS the way sailors talk about weather. A single percentage point shift in the cost of goods sold can swing net profit by a third or more because there's so little cushion above zero to absorb it. This is where the human cost of the model shows up. Behind every everyday low price is a business squeezing labor hours to the minute, negotiating supplier contracts to the fraction of a cent, and, when the math stops working, closing stores. And when a supermarket closes in a neighborhood that had only one, it doesn't just cost jobs. It creates what's now called a food desert, a community where the nearest fresh produce is a bus ride away. The thin margins that make grocery stores affordable for shoppers are the same thin margins that make grocery stores disposable for owners the moment the numbers turn. And they do turn. This is the crisis every supermarket eventually faces. The year the margin math simply stops closing. Costs rise faster than prices can follow, without losing customers to the store across the street. Shrinkage ticks up, labor costs climb. And a business that looked, from the outside, like a cash printing machine, hundreds of thousands of dollars moving through the registers every week, turns out to have been standing on a ledge the entire time. Some stores don't survive that year. The ones that do survive it by doing something counterintuitive, leaning harder into the one part of the store that actually makes real money. That part is the deli and prepared foods counter. It generates only 5 to 10% of a typical store's total revenue, but it can contribute 15 to 25% of the store's total profit. It is, quietly, the department propping up everything else. The rotisserie chicken isn't a side attraction. In a lot of stores, it's the thing keeping the lights on. Zoom out, and you can see why the modern grocery industry looks the way it does. Why independent grocers keep getting absorbed into larger chains that can buy in volume and survive the thin margins through sheer scale. Why self-checkout exists, not as a convenience, but as a labor cost lever pulled in an industry with almost no other levers left to pull. Why every big chain is quietly turning its stores into mini food service operations, because a rotisserie chicken protects a business in a way a bag of rice never could. The supermarket down the street from you isn't just selling groceries. It's running a continuous, high-wire balancing act between spoilage, labor, and a margin so thin that almost nothing stands between profit and loss. A supermarket was never just a place to buy food. It was a business built to survive on the thinnest margin in retail, and every full shelf you walk past was the result of someone, somewhere, making sure the math didn't break that week.